sir.
Welcome inside the Fantasy Sports Locker Room. Chris Meany, John Collins, Mike Omalon, Eston McLaren. As always, we are down here at Shark Club, Dundas and Young. Talk about a little Week 6 recap, fantasy football. We'll look ahead to tonight's game as well, San Francisco 49ers and the St. Louis Rams in St. Louis. But I guess we're going to have to talk right off the hop about some of the injuries again. Pretty significant news, obviously. You got Victor Cruz done for the year, Stephen Ridley done for the year. Those are really big injuries, and I guess Eston always writing waiver wire pieces at lockerroomfantasysports.com, and I guess Bolden and White will be featured in your piece, but I don't know, John, you're the big Pats fan. Do you want any of them?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a look at Brandon Bolden to be sure. And again, Eston can inform us maybe a little better on this, but they really like the power running style that Stephen Ridley was bringing. We've talked about this on air and off air a couple of times, what's going on with Shane Vereen. And the truth is, I think they see Vereen in more of that passing down back role. So if someone's going to go ahead and get the carries there, you might see it be Vereen at a few every game. But they're going to go to Brandon Bolden, and that's how it went down last week. He played a handful of snaps. I think only four. He played 14 snaps, all of them in the second half, 6 carries, all of them in the second half. And, he got the work that we would have thought would have went to Ridley. So if there's anybody there I'm investing in, yes, it's Brandon Bolden. James White's going to be on the field a bit as well, but I'm holding there.
I'm actually on the flip side of you. We've seen Brandon Bolden before. They don't really like him all that much. That's why they stuck with Ridley through all the fumble issues. Vereen's going to be the one to have the biggest expanded role. They're just not going to run the ball as many times. That's going to be the flat out of it. Vereen's just going to get so many more dump down passes. James White, he's been a healthy scratch 5 times this year. The one game he was actually on the field, 3 carries for 21 yards. They like this guy a lot in preseason. Was considered one of the better sleepers all season long. So, I don't know. He's a guy I would like to take a chance on more so than have Brandon White on my roster and stuck on my bench.
Ridley was
Fair
one
point.
of 2.
That's a bigger conversation that we'll have later when we get talking about Andre Holmes and you rip on me a little bit for that. Better to have a guy that could develop into something on your bench than a guy who might not. That's a fair point. I just think, certainly in the early weeks, I think they're going to give some work to Brandon Bolden, but maybe long-term James White is the play. We like his sleeper potential coming into the season, for sure.
That's Patriots, they ran a ball a lot. They're committed to the run, so I'm in on Brandon Bolden. He's especially even next week on a short week.
Remember we saw LeGarrette Blount come in last year and kind of like a similar situation where Ridley was like fumbling the ball all the time, and he came in and he was actually pretty good.
And that could be Bolden.
Brandon Bolden might be a different runner, but I don't know that we've seen enough on him to really make a judgment yet. Let's see how it goes on him. He's worth a pickup.
Yeah. If you're in a keeper dynasty league, is it James White though that you want, especially with Ridley? I mean, he's a free agent, 2015.
I see James White as the replacement to Shane Vereen more than I see him as the replacement to Stephen Ridley. Again, we'll see how it plays out. I'm not going to pretend like I know how the snaps are going to break down next week, and we'll have a little bit of reaction on that next time we get together and talk about it. But I see James White, he's got great hands, and he's a diminutive back. He's a smaller guy, so I see him as a pass-catching back, as a Shane Vereen type, who's also in a contract year this year. I see him, 2015, really doing the job of Shane Vereen, and that means they'll get him a few carries and a few touches right now, but I don't see him replacing Vereen.
It's interesting, there are 2 backs this year who had at least 90 carries and no fumbles. Le'Veon Bell, and one was Stephen Ridley.
And good for Stephen Ridley. He'll go through the season now without a fumble.
And so you kind of touched on it. You don't see a huge uptick in workload for Shane Vereen.
He's got to get a boost.
Just me. He gets those small boosts, I guess. Yeah?
I think he'll get the carries. Yeah, he'll get a handful of carries. You'll see a boost, which will be nice for a Vereen owner because right now, it's not like he's on the field all the time, but
I feel like Vereen gets a boost. Gronk's Gronk. I feel like LaFell gets a boost a little bit.
Brand LaFell is looking sharp.
Yeah.
7 targets yesterday, caught 4 of the balls. Obviously, scored the 2 touchdowns. And he's had a minimum of 4 targets in every game where he's been active this season. So they're paying attention to him. Started out pretty quiet, but I feel like he's gaining Tom Brady's trust there. And yes, if they turn more to the pass game right now with Ridley out, which I'm not totally sold on them doing, the formula the last couple of weeks been working okay. it's Brandon LaFell. They don't trust Danny Amendola.
No.
You're not seeing much of Aaron Dobson. He played 16 snaps, something like that, one target. And Edelman's going to get his work. Gron's going to get his work. But Brandon LaFell's going to be the guy down the field unless it's Brian Timms.
See, he must be.
I like what I saw from LaFell. I think he might be definitely a guy you might want to be starting.
As soon as he started complaining about not being involved in the offense.
And that's the weird thing. We've seen a lot more way higher skilled guys going to New England, complain about skill or playing time, and then, hey, get out of here, you're cut. And Brandon LaFell does it. Pretty much nobody, and gets way more work.
But Tom Brady likes Brandon LaFell. That's what's happening there. He's been talking about that since the preseason. And again, it took them a long time to get started. Week 1, they had 6 targets, no receptions between the two of them. But Brady likes putting the ball to Brandon LaFell. He likes his size compared to the Edelman and Danny Amendola guys he's been working with. I think he's going to be their primary outside threat this year, whether it's because he complained or otherwise. And, now that offense is moving the ball.
So who's a pickup this week?
Brandon LaFell.
No, for Bolden or James White.
It depends on your needs, right?
Yeah. To me, personally, I don't want either of them. I'm not even going to bother.
If I need a week 7 starter on that short week against who are they playing? The Jets.
Jets on
Tough
Thursday.
run D, fair enough. But if I need a starter this week, it's Brandon Bolden. If I need long-term investment, it might be James White, yeah.
Hey, if Hillman can get 100 yards, who knows?
Hey, good for
can
him, though.
Get 100 yards. Okay, so we'll continue with injuries. I guess Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be involved. I mean, we talked about him last week. We said you should go ahead and go and get this guy. And now you have to go. Hopefully you got him because Cruz is done now for the year. Ruben Randall's not going to get any more targets. He gets a ton as it is already.
What? And that's a good thing for a Randall owner. Right. Because with Beckham's emergence, I couldn't start Randall anymore. There's just too many mouths to feed there. Donnell, his stock went down, but I think all of them. Now, unfortunately,
everybody but
Cruz,
Eli.
It was a devastating injury, but Randall, Beckham, Donnell, all up.
So I was going to say exactly that. I think it's obviously very good news for Beckham. He was on the field in a lot of 3 wide sets anyhow, but certainly he'll see the field more now because he's going to be relied upon to start for them. But Ruben Randall, I was worried, and I said this on air last week, that Beckham, as he progresses, starts to maybe take a few targets and a few snaps from Ruben Randall. Well, he doesn't have that concern anymore. You're going to see steady work for him. He had 8 looks this week. I think that's like a floor number moving forward. He's going to get a lot of volume in this offense. Third guy, if you're looking for him, is Preston Parker, for what it's worth. He had 25 snaps, 1 target this week, and he's been in and around the offense so far this season.
I guess another guy we talked about last week, too, was Sanu, and it looks like maybe there's a shot A.J. Green can go. That's what Marvin Jones said. There's a shot he can play. It's looking like, Marvin Jones, rather, it's looking like he's done. He could be done for the year, they're saying. They can shut him down.
And if they don't, I wonder how much work there is for him anyway with the way Sanu's been playing, right? The whole talk heading into the season, and I was on Marvin Jones. I was all about him coming into the season. He was Hugh Jackson's number 2. Even if he plays, I don't see how they can get away from Mohamed Sanu right now. He had 15 targets this week, made 11 catches, 132 yards, looked great with A.J. Green out of the lineup, and he's looked pretty good all year. Had a 70-yard week last week. He scored 3 touchdowns on the season and thrown for 1.
He's throwing football.
And they're using him all over the field. I think they'd be hard-pressed to turn away from him either way. So A.J. Green is going to come back at some point, whether this week or next. I don't think week 7 looks good. Eventually, obviously, his targets come down, but I think he's a number 2, yeah?
Yeah. I think I checked his ownership, and it was like 33%.
I was going to ask Eston that question. He's probably still available.
Yeah, he's out there.
Then Yahoo is like 33%.
Go get him.
Go ahead and get him, yeah.
They don't have Dolan. They don't really have a reliable tight end in that offense. So Sanu,
Tyler Eifert went down, right?
Yeah, it's like Sanu's right. Even when Green comes back, I like Sanu. Maybe Green won't be 100% healthy. He might be a little hobbled, and he's also going to be getting the top cornerbacks. So Sanu might be a start.
Who would you rather have, Sanu or Beckham Jr.?
Man, I
like Odell Beckham. It's just more fun. I know he's a rookie.
Sanu maybe for 2 weeks, but I think Beckham is halfway. 4 more weeks down the road, he's going to be a G. He's not yet. Yeah, he is.
We do have to worry a little bit about rookie receivers in terms of consistency. I mean, it's hard to produce in your first year
Right.
in the NFL. He's not going to reach his full potential this year. We can all say that. But he's thrust into a role in an offense that's going to pass the ball plenty. Cincinnati, they've got AJ Green, who's a clear-cut number one, whereas Ruben Randall is another guy who's a wide receiver one. And they've got Gio and Jeremy Hill going on down there.
Well, and especially with the whole Rashad Jennings being out, Andre Williams not being all that good thing. Cincinnati's still going to be run heavy with Gio Bernard and Jeremy Hill looking unreal this year.
You know what I find interesting about Andre Williams, if we're talking about it? Last week, he goes 20 carries for 70 yards, 3.5 yards a carry, and everybody says, man, he played real well in the absence of Rashad Jennings. And this week he goes, was it 15 for 58? 14 for 58, and 3.8 yards a carry, and it did not look good. Like, I'm not saying it did, but now here we are at 3.8, and we're saying, oh, he's terrible. He's awful. It's a fickle community fantasy. What it means to me is Rashad Jennings takes control again. As I said last week, and as I'll continue to say, when he's healthy, he's good to go.
Well, Payne Hillis touched the ball a ton.
5 carries last night. I think he had a reception as well, maybe a couple.
I think more not touched the ball.
Well, that offense,
He was on the field a lot, yeah.
The offense looked horrible, anyways. Like I was saying,
Don't pick up Peyton Hillis.
I don't know what to do about that. I really liked Eli coming to the week. I invested heavily in him in daily fantasy sports. Thought I was going to make a mint.
he had averaged over 330 yards against the Eagles in his career.
And had come in 3 weeks hot, too.
Yeah.
4 weeks hot.
What about Donnell? Like back-to-back goose eggs.
Yeah, 2 targets this week.
Had one touchdown taken away.
Yeah, he should have had that one.
Right, and I think
would
that
give me a win over you, fantasy.
I think that you see his targets pick back up again, given that they lost another weapon. I still like Larry Donnell. He looked good for the first 4 weeks. Let's not overreact here.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple other injuries to Darren Sproles. Chip Kelly said he wouldn't rule him out. They're on a bye week. It looks like he's going to miss 1 to 2 games, maybe 1. Chip Kelly said he still could be available week 8. He's got like a partial tear in his MCL. He left the game yesterday and didn't return. And then there's Megatron. It looks like there's talk about how they might just keep him out through his bye week, I believe week 9.
Now, what's really interesting about that, and you'll want to keep an eye on that, as Calvin Johnson owner, all you're doing is sitting and waiting. And frankly,
If
you're
you're a
hoping,
Stafford owner, you're frustrated.
right? So hopefully, if you're a Johnson owner, you're hoping that they take the time they need to get him
Absolutely.
ready and back on the field and productive. Fine. If you're a Stafford owner, you're concerned. If you're a Golden Tate owner, I was excited about Golden Tate coming into this week, and he had 12 targets. They were forcing the ball his way. But what's really interesting is that even though Calvin Johnson was a non-factor the last 2 weeks, life looked good out there for Eric Ebron and for Golden Tate. This week, Tate gets those 12 targets. He makes 5 catches for 44 yards. It's an average of like 3.7 a target. I think life is a little more difficult, as you'd expect, as a Lions receiver without Megatron on the field, because there's a lot more attention paid to you. Different from Mohamed Sanu, who made good on 15 targets this week. It was a lot harder. They were grinding out there against Minnesota.
Yeah. I know. Just even if he's not 100%, you still get that top corner duty to Calvin. So
Right.
Tate just beasted on the defensive back, the second best of the team. So
Absolutely. Now, you're still using Golden Tate in most leagues, of course, in all but the shallowest, because you like those 12 targets. But it's just, let's temper our expectations a bit. Again, thinking about daily fantasy, maybe he's not as good an investment as you thought.
you guys see Joey Bell after the game?
Yeah.
Motivational speech.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
He was pumped.
He was pumped. He was pumped. His mom pumped him up.
Yeah.
Hey, man, my mom calls me every night before we go on the air inside the locker room. Something about a mother's love, right? She knows how to fire you up.
Yeah, I liked it.
Maybe that's the viewer.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
Thanks for tuning in right now. I was talking about some guys who are risers and some guys, fallers. For me, Jared McKinnon stands out a little bit. We didn't know what he was all about. He was a big waiver wire target of yours, I believe, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and you wanted to have owned him a while ago, I think.
And now he's finally starting to get some looks. I think he had 48 snaps compared to Asiata's 15.
Snaps for Asiata, 2 carries.
Should we also talk about the
yards.
trade in this Shark Club League that I pulled off with you?
You ripped him off. I don't want to talk about it. I ripped off Mark. You ripped off him. Those are trades.
They gave him Asiata. Who else? Stacy for Macklin.
In fairness, of course, you didn't know that Asiata's demotion was coming. Interestingly,
That's why to make a move. Not the best. That's rule 101. That's what you don't do in fantasy. But without the flex, you need a running back.
and again,
Stacy's not bad.
with Asiata, nobody saw that coming, right? Apparently, we saw it coming eventually, I guess. We just didn't see it coming, in week 6. Apparently, they had the conversation in the locker room this week that this was going to be Jarrett McKinnon's job. So players weren't surprised, and McKinnon went out there and ran well with it. Detroit's defensive front is pretty strong. And he carried the ball 11 times, I think, for 3.8 a carry, something like that, 40 yards.
Did 40 in the air, too, I think.
Nice work as a receiver. He went 6 for 6. And he's the type of athlete where they want to get him the ball in space, and he looked pretty good doing it. Teddy Bridgewater, especially in games where he's seeing pressure like he was, he's going to feed the ball, to Jarrett McKinnon in the flat. And one of these weeks he's going to bust one. Better athlete than Asiata. That's his job, right? Like, they're not changing that.
Asiata can still perform when they're up in a game. They're content to put him in there, get 2, 3. Hopefully he can break 1 5 yards for a red zone touchdown every now and then.
Break 1 5 yards.
But that's his career average.
I know.
That's a break.
That's the thing.
When you want a guy who has the potential to do a lot more than that, you're going to go Jarrett McKinnon, and that's who you're going to go with when you're trailing in a game. He's just a whole lot better.
Yeah, and truth be told, I picked up Jarrett McKinnon in a keepers league this week in a trade. He was kind of a throw into that deal, and I have my sights set on next year, and now I'm kind of interested. Right, we've got a 10-game cameo here where he's going to put some game on film for the coaches to think about as they evaluate the position heading in to 2015. I think they're going to give him all the work he can handle, see what he can do, because unfortunately for Minnesota, it's done.
What, you don't think AP's coming back?
I don't care if AP's coming back.
He's not coming back.
It's done. Game over.
Yeah. You think his career's over?
I don't know. It's tough.
Does he smoke that weed?
He smoked a little weed.
Yeah, but
I know.
why? I'm not judging him for smoking weed. I'm just saying, why are you smoking weed right now?
I know.
Why are you wanting to get busted?
I don't know what's wrong with him. This guy's making wrong decision after wrong decision.
It's interesting what you learn. Anyway, if he's back after a year off and at 30 years old, I'm just really not excited about it, to tell you the truth, and it's too bad.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Non-topic right now.
All right. Some other guys jumping up the stock, I guess, Ben Tate, Crowell, now West.
Crowell is interesting. Terrence West, as you know, didn't play at all. He was a healthy scratch this week.
It doesn't look good for him either, getting back in the lineup.
Not the way things are going right now. I think that was a special teams decision. They decided he was going to be the third back, and they decided to go without one because they knew Ben Tate was healthy. Crowell looked nice. 11 carries, 77 yards. Looked pretty good running the ball in general. I like Ben Tate, though, in that offense.
I did say
just that zone blocking scheme, he knows how to hit the hole. I've said that a couple of times. 25-77-2 this week. Not a great average, but he found the end zone a couple of times. He's had over 200 yards in the 2 games he's been in the lineup, right?
And that's probably the problem for West, too, is that when Tate's healthy, they're far too similar. Whereas Crowell's a little bit different, and that's what's going to get him the number 2 job.
That's why I think if you have, if your bench kind of weak, I would stash Terrence West just because of Ben Tate's injury history. He gets injured. Terrence West probably is going to have just as many rush attempts as Crowell, if not more. So he's still a stash in my opinion. But yeah, Ben Tate, he's probably around number 10 to 12 running back.
I really like him when he's on the field. I might not rank him that high rest of season because he's got some concern with injuries, but when he's on the field, he's a great option in an offense that's going to run the ball. One thing I want to highlight there, though, is that Alex Mack broke his leg. They think he might come back, but he's certainly gone for an extended period. Again, in a scheme that's reliant on those zone blocking principles, losing your center and one of the better centers in the league is a significant issue. Love Ben Tate, still excited, like what he's put on film. I want to watch next week to see how this offense adjusts to the loss of Alex Mack, see what they do, see how they block. Then make my choices from there.
Well, we were talking about the same thing with McCoy these couple of weeks when Kelsey went down.
It's a great example.
Yeah. And how McCoy was, if he struggled, there's some chances that Ben Tate could struggle as well.
Shady looked good.
He does look
good
this week, though. Shady looked good. It's funny. I think the majority of his yards came without even getting touched. Like he wasn't. It almost felt like the Giants thought he wasn't going to run. I don't know. It was.
Lane
certainly
Johnson's
weird.
back. That helps a little. That helps a bit.
Yeah, and I noticed Selleck was getting in there too and blocking as well. That helps as well. Cam. Didn't start him last week, Mike.
He was in my sit-em this week as well.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Like the thing we talked about too, and we love from Cam. This is the best we've seen him as a passer.
Right.
This is the best he's looked in his career. But he was just not running at all. And like you'd get like the 215, 220 yards a game with a touchdown. That's just like 12, 13 points. That's not
Right.
That doesn't cut
Plenty
it.
efficient. He looks good throwing the ball, but it doesn't cut it in fantasy. Right.
Then he goes off 100 yards, 107 yards rushing and a touchdown. That's the Cam.
He had 17 carries yesterday.
Unreal.
So they're not going to hand the ball off to anyone else.
Well,
He's
not
just
right
gonna run
now,
himself.
right? D'Angelo
Whitaker
Williams
actually was doing okay.
He had 6 carries for 25 yards. He's doing all right. He got in the
Better
end
than
zone.
anyone else. in
Yeah, that's
Carolina.
fine. I agree. But he's not an exciting back. He's not going to get 17 carries every week, don't get me wrong. But with Ozzie Whitaker, as your lead guy, with Williams out, with Stewart unclear, he's going to get more work running the ball for sure. What I want to see this week is how Cam Newton, how he's feeling coming back from that, what the reports are on his ankle, and then what they do next week. If I see him come off a 17-carry game when they have a few designed runs for him, then I'll be super excited that Cam Newton is going to be that guy running the ball again, that he's good and healthy. Of the 17 carries, only 4 of them were scrambles or sneaks. So they had 13 more or less designed runs yesterday, which I thought was really interesting. Looked great doing it. Last point to echo on what you said about him being a better passer this year, and he's clearly more efficient. He completed 63% of his passes yesterday.
Contract was nice.
Yeah, and Avant played well as well, actually. The complimentary guys were good. Kelvin Benjamin caught 7 of his 8 targets and found the end zone again. What I like about Cam is that defense looks like crap. That Carolina Panthers defense that won them so many football games last season just really isn't holding anybody down. They got beat up by Cincinnati yesterday without A.J. Green, without Marvin Jones, really relying on Mohamed Sanu. They get beat up by them. I think that bodes well for Cam Newton's fantasy stock. He's going to run the ball a bit. He's going to run it in the goal line. We're hoping if he's back to good health. And then he's going to have to throw the ball a little more, and he's throwing it pretty efficiently. Like, the game plan changes in Carolina if they can't play defense. So I'm back all in.
And they've got the Packers next at Lambeau, so that defense is going to have.
I was going to say that's why I love Cam moving forward, because his schedule is one. It doesn't get much easier than that. You get Green Bay. To the end of the season, after that week 9 after, you get the Saints, the Falcons, the Vikings, the Eagles, Falcons again, and it's you can't get much easier than
That
this
whole
schedule.
division, right? That whole NFC South does not look like
got
it's
one
full of good
matchup.
pass defenses right now. I'll tell
He
you
has
that.
one tough matchup against Seattle, but
I don't
The
know.
winner of that division is going to be 9-7.
Is that so tough?
Yeah,
Maybe
and
not.
it
But
makes
what about Cincinnati? Is that they just got blown 2 weeks in a row? You think that was a
Yeah, it
tough
was not a
defense?
great response, I'll tell you that. And it's a
2
good
terrible
point.
performances in a row.
Yeah. Well, it's a good segue. We're talking about defenses. I know we're also talking about guys who are rising up the charts. And Joe Flacco had a pretty good day. And now he gets Atlanta's defense. You know better than anybody else. They're having their issues right now, so it's not ideal.
It doesn't help when your 2 best defensive players are hurt and you only have 2 good defensive players to start with. It's going to get you.
So Joe Flacco up the ranks a little bit, and Carson Palmer Palmer as well up the ranks a little bit.
Yeah. Start anyone who plays for the Baltimore Ravens. Start Flacco. Pick Flacco up. Start him. He's only 50% owned. I don't know why. Torrey Smith, Steve Smith Sr. Start them both.
It was nice to see Torrey Smith get, he only had 5 targets yesterday. Obviously, that game got out of hand quick. What I liked is that both of the touchdowns went to him early. It wasn't like he was picking up garbage touchdowns, right? Torrey Smith got the first 2 scores for Baltimore before that game got out of hand. I like to see that. He scored last week as well, right? Starting to put the ball his way.
Everyone scored.
He's still not a heavy target load guy. Steve Smith's still the man there, I think. But it's nice to see Torrey Smith come around a bit.
2 touchdowns for Torrey.
Right, and again, the first 2, so it wasn't like they were like late game when Flacco was having a good time out there, right? On the note of Carson Palmer, I know you
Yes.
mentioned him.
Yeah, that one ties in. I wanted to tie it into your mention with Cam. You want to wait and see how he does this week coming off that injury. Same thing for Carson Palmer. Bruce Arians said today he felt fine after 44 passes.
They had him throw the ball 44 times.
He may feel fine right up until Friday, may feel fine right up until game time Sunday. It's a nerve issue. He could do great for 3 weeks and then suddenly not be able to move his arm again.
Now, what I
You
care
got to watch out.
Yeah,
But
that's why I'm nervous picking him up, because maybe he could have a good first half and then.
And so I'm not picking him up. I'm not interested in owning Carson Palmer unless I've got a significant gap or I'm in a 2-quarterback lead. I'm not picking up Carson Palmer, but what I'm excited about in his return to the field is that both Michael Floyd and Larry Fitzgerald have productive fantasy days yesterday. Fitzgerald and Ellington as well. He helps the whole offense, yeah. But most notably, those receivers had kind of gone into a vacuum, a bit of a black hole, right, the last couple of weeks. Floyd goes four catches, 7 targets, scores a touchdown on 47 yards. Fitz goes 6'6", 98, and scores. It's just a better offense with Carson Palmer in there, even if he's not at 100%. So as much as we're talking about the ownability of the quarterback, I like it from I can start those wide receivers again now with confidence.
And there's good matchups
feel
for
good about
Arizona as well. Oakland, Philly, Dallas, and St. Louis next. So those are all really good matchups for Carson Palmer going forward.
That's true.
I also want to talk about Allen Robinson. What we talked off air, he's one of 7 wide receivers over the past 4 weeks to have 35-plus targets and 25-plus catches. And he got all those targets.
He got all those
shorts coming in.
And with everybody in the lineup. Marquise Lee was in there as well. Alan Hearns got bumped out of the starting lineup. Cecil Shorts obviously
That's
had
what
a day.
I thought would happen when Marquise Lee came back.
15, maybe 16 targets, 10 catches. I know he had the fumble, but he had a pretty good day, Cecil Shorts. PPR monster. I think he's going to be the rest of the year. But it was nice to see Allen Robinson stay as that second most targeted receiver, second most snaps played, starting wide receiver 2. He can be on your radar, but yeah, it's great. He had 8 catches. He's a wide receiver 4 or 5 right now. He holds that position, and that's cool. It's good to see it. But if it's anybody, Shorts dominated the workload there. When he's healthy, in a PPR league particularly, you want him in your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I liked what I saw from Robinson even leading up pre-season. This guy, he's got a lot of talent, but it's gonna be hard to trust. Jacksonville, they got a poor offensive line. You play a tough, pass rush. Burrow's gonna have no time to throw, so it's just tough to count. Because even though he had the targets with Lee back in, with Shorts, Marquise Lee, his role might continue to grow as the season grows. So that could diminish Robinson's value.
The coaching staff
Clay
felt.
Harbor's the one I want.
Yeah, actually, Clay Harbor, he had the
I don't
quiet
mind
week
any
last
of them,
week,
because they're gonna
but
throw
he
the
had
ball a ton.
his bookended it with strong outings. Clay Harbor's worth a look as a tight end. That, the whole TE, let's say 8 to 20, is pretty close. So I don't know how excited you get about a waiver ad, but Clay Harbor's definitely worth a look.
If you're a Jimmy Graham owner, Mercedes Lewis is still out for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Jimmy Graham's out a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I'm taking Clay Harbor if I own Jimmy Graham, and I did.
There you go. Devontae Adams.
What? I was gonna say, sorry for tight end. You want to go Adams?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Tight
well, tight end. The 88 Club strikes again. Jason Morrow, New York, Jets.
Jason Morrow had a dozen targets yesterday and 10 catches.
68
And he
yards.
dropped one when he was wide open.
Yeah, that was a nice
So,
touchdown,
could be
little
more.
lob.
And Geno Smith said after the game that Jason Morrow reminds him of Rob Gronkowski.
And Geno Smith showing again he's a sharp guy.
He is up there.
I don't mind
I
Morrow,
was so
though,
disappointed seeing him throw that late pick 6, by the way. It's off topic a little bit, but I added Michael Vick coming into the games because I was sure that this was it for Geno. I was sure of it. Now,
It's just
He
some
played-
guy you dropped for Michael Vick, though.
in one league I dropped Andre Holmes for him. What that means is I was way ahead of the curve on Holmes. I've loved him since last season,
I
as
picked him
Eston
up
well
and
knows.
started him with confidence in 28 points.
And I had him in dailies, and I loved it. It was great. But anyway, I'm on Andre Holmes. I like the volume and a pass-heavy offense there. But I picked up Vic because I needed help with quarterback, and I was sure this was the end of Geno Smith. Now, he played pretty well, but he threw that pick 6 late in the game. It was awful. Now they go to New England on a short week. I mean, they're going to lose 6 games in a row for the first time since 2007. at some point you stop the bleeding, and I don't think he's making good decisions. I think the Patriots are going to expose him like crazy this week.
That's the thing,
They're
though,
in
with
trouble,
Rex
man.
Ryan in love with Geno Smith and calling him a great draft pick, he's going to stay in there and he's going to continue to fight
Rex
for
Ryan
a job every week. And
They're
not
both
really
gonna
fight,
lose their
but he's
job
going
at
to
the
try
same
to not
Right,
lose
so
his
Rex
job.
Ryan's not in
every
love
week.
with Geno Smith. I think Rex Ryan kind of knows his star is hinged to him. And if he says, hey, I was just trying to give the young kid a try, he might save his job at the end of the season.
To be honest,
That's
I
the
don't think it
only way,
even
but-
matters if Vic's in there or not. They just don't have that many skilled players offensively.
But
Eric Decker looked pretty good.
Yeah, that's it.
with
Chris
Amaro
Ivory's running all right.
and Smith
Chris
trying not to
Johnson's
lose
not.
his job,
No, he's not.
CJ Dante.
with Amaro and Smith not trying to not lose a job, he's going to realize that he can't throw the ball more than 5 yards accurately. No,
He's
who's
gonna
within
just
5 yards
beat
of
the
him is
ball.
Chase Amaro,
That's right.
Rob
And,
Gronkowski.
and that's it. He was 6.8 yards per reception, so it's not like he's targeting him way downfield, but he likes the big body. A lot of young quarterbacks lean on a tight end. The reality is rookie tight ends sometimes have a little trouble. This was 12 targets for him this week, but, you know, he was averaging 4 per week over the 3 weeks coming in, so it's not like he's – I can't guarantee you he's going to get 12 looks every week.
No, but those previous weeks were when Geno Smith thought he was comfortably an NFL starting quarterback. He now realizes it's not so much.
He must have learned that when he went to a meeting.
Nope, he skips those. Okay.
That's what Peyton Manning's quarterback school.
Let's get a lot of quarterbacks go through there. Andrew Luck is a star pupil. Otherwise,
And since we're talking about the Jets, should we talk about Chris Johnson at all? 3 carries this week, 7 carries last week, played 33% of the snaps. It seems like they're kind of phasing him out.
yeah, the reality is that nobody ran the ball very well there this week against Denver. Chris Ivory, I think, had 8 carries, 7 yards. Johnson went 3 for 9, and Bilal Powell was in the mix. Like, nothing doing there. But yeah, that's Chris Ivory's backfield. I've been saying that for a couple of weeks, and it kind of should be the way he's been playing. Wasn't great this week, but I think they are phasing him out, dialing it down a bit. He'll have more than 3 carries next week, but I'm not that excited about Chris Johnson. I know he scored a long touchdown last week, but that's all you're gambling on him right now.
Let's talk about some other guys that are falling down your ranks a little bit.
Your boy Devontae Adams.
I like Devontae Adams, man. I'd like everyone like Boykin coming into the year. Why? Because Green Bay likes to pass the ball.
That
Rodgers is a
offense-
stud. He's a third wide receiver, and now Devontae Adams steps
Right,
in.
so they can support 3 useful wide receivers, particularly without a tight end of strong contribution.
You like the fake? Pulled the
I
Marino
like
in his own home,
I
in his
know.
house.
Do you think he
Definitely
did that
not
on
it.
purpose?
Yes.
Yeah, that's so good.
He
That's like,
pulled the Marino
dude,
in Miami,
Nowhere
faked
good
the
as
spike,
Marino's.
learned
Jeez,
over.
we're good. Thank you.
Nowhere good as Marino. Marino did a
I
full
wonder
well
if these guys
pump
might be on TV.
and went for a touchdown. Rod, who was that? It was just like a little. Even
He was a half-yard short of a touchdown, so you can't blame him there.
Oh, yeah. And what I liked about Adams is actually now he happened to be the open man, fine on that fake snap, but I like that Rodgers has enough faith in him to go to him late in games like that.
Well, he's been saying for a couple weeks now that about how he's looking at the tape. Sorry to cut you off. Looking at the tape and how he's starting to see separation between
Yeah.
Adams and.
And he did say as much last week. You're quite right. And he was the second most targeted receiver this week there.
Yeah.
I don't think that's any surprise. Jordy Nelson's going to continue to dominate targets. He had 15 again this week. I love Jordy Nelson. But yeah, let's roll the dice on Adams. I mean, get him in. Look at him as a wide receiver 3 in most weeks. He's going to get lots of volume. I love it.
Who don't you love?
Kendall Wright.
Keenan Allen?
I was so high on Kendall Wright and Ken Wisenhunt's offense. You really just not see him much. And this week he only had 1 target. So I'm not starting him until I see better. I know last week was pretty good, but I'm scared of Kendall Wright. Yeah, Keenan Allen, I don't know what's going on there in San Diego. 6 targets this
Not
week,
that good.
72 snaps. He played a whole lot, and he looked pretty damn good in 2013. They're just
In
spreading the
spurts.
ball around. They're just spreading the ball around.
Malcolm Floyd just keeps making big plays.
And Eddie Royal's getting touchdowns
Eddie Royal.
again. Again, he's on the field almost all their snaps yesterday. So I think the coaching staff still has faith in him. They're just spreading the ball around. And Ladarius Green even got in the mix a little bit this week. So, yeah, I'm not super high on Allen. I'm probably still starting him as a wide receiver 2-3, but certainly not as a back-end 1, top 16 guy anymore.
Cordell Patterson again.
They targeted him 6 times at least, but he had nothing this week.
Hey, you mentioned Ladarius Green. It is interesting. They, to start the season, they're all 3 wide sets, but they're transforming to the double tight end set more and more, which they should, because Ladarius Green's he's a freak of talent.
Absolutely. So again, it's just a lot of mouse feed. Same situation as we talked about in Jacksonville. We didn't talk about their backfield, and I know we're moving along quickly here, but everybody got excited about Storm Johnson this week, and then Storm Johnson had 10 carries because there's a lot of mouths to feed, and Toby Gerhart comes back. So is he an ad? Yeah, probably, but is he an every week start? Certainly not. There's not a lot of work there. Going to spread it around. Marcus Wheaton had 11 targets this week, did nothing with them. He passes the eye test every time I watch him, but the production just hasn't been there. In fact, he's only top 50 yards once this season. That was in week 1.
Yeah. He just goes to Antonio Brown all the time, I find.
As they should.
Yeah. He is just an amazing wide receiver.
Lamar Miller had a nice day. Did you guys watch any of that?
He had a nice second half, I found. And it's also against a defense in Green Bay that is not very good at stopping the run.
Right, so that's actually where I was going. He had a nice day. Now, he did lose a fumble, but he did get in the end zone as well and topped 100 total yards.
Yeah.
But no Sean Marino went in. Played poorly, 6 carries, 10 yards, but he played 23 snaps effectively. No worse for wear with his elbow, I don't think, on Monday. Eventually, you're going to see Marino start taking over that job. So it's just a heads up. This might be a good time to sell Lamar Miller high after a 14, 15-point outing because I think Marino's coming for that job.
Yeah, I've been trying to sell him high for a couple of weeks now, and nobody's biting.
Jordan Reed, he's back.
Yeah, and I thought he actually killed himself yesterday. I saw him get hit. I saw him get hit, and then he didn't get up for a good 30 seconds. I said, here we go again. This guy's out, but he's good. But he's good. I don't know, man. I don't know what to think think about him. He's so talented.
He's going to lose some snaps.
I feel like if he's involved with RG3.
Call a couple targets yesterday, I think 3.
I feel like if he's involved with RG3, who I think actually may get his job back when he comes back. None of us thought he would get it back.
I guess they're talking about going to Colt McCoy right now in Washington, which is crazy. Yeah. But they're talking about it, so it looks good for RG3 when he comes back.
I think if RG3 comes back, maybe you see a little bit more production from Garcon and Reed if he can stay healthy.
But here's the question about Garcon and Deshaun Jackson. Name the top 2 targeted Washington Redskins yesterday. Andre Roberts and Jordan Reed. So Reed's back in the lineup. He has 11. Andre Roberts has 5. And Garcon might have had 6. And Deshaun Jackson had 5 himself. I know Deshaun Jackson had a nice day yesterday, too.
3 touchdowns this year and all of them over 60 yards.
Otherwise, Pierre Garcon, I'm not interested. Again, a lot of mouse to feed right now. Way down on him, and he was a guy I had ranked right in the mid-teens this year. I was pretty excited.
So high, too.
I think it's just the fact that RG3 is not around, and Cousins looks like a guy that he's familiar with, and he's more familiar with Roberts.
And Roberts is getting it done, too, though.
I guess would you say Deshaun Jackson over Pierre Garcon? For sure. No.
He's boom bust, but yeah, I would. I would say rest of the season. Not rest of the season. I would say next week or next couple of weeks, I'm Deshaun over Garcon.
Here's that big play,
RG3 come back just in time for fantasy football playoff time.
Yeah, you should pick him up.
Think about it.
If you're weak.
I don't care about him, but it helps Garcon.
Yeah. Also his big plays. Antone Smith, I want to Falcons.
Good for you. Go ahead.
Unbelievable. This guy, the first 7 touchdowns of his career, all over 38 yards. The longest of such a stat since 1940. This guy's a G. You start him. You start Antone Smith because this is 4 weeks in a row where he's busted.
It's amazing. He has more touchdowns than Dez, Gronk, Forte, Demaryius Thomas, Jamal Charles, Julio Jones, and Jimmy Graham. And only 132 rushing yards.
I'm going to say this. I know it's crazy. I've only ever heard Eston say this guy's a G when he's been making fun of me for saying it. So if he's going to call Antone Smith a G, you know he's pretty serious. You know he likes the production he's seeing, and why not? Now, he had 6 touches again this week, and eventually, and I know I keep saying this, and he keeps busting touchdowns. Eventually, a 6-touch week is going to get you nothing. So if I'm using Antone Smith, I cannot use him as an RB1. I can't replace some legit guys with him. But if you've got good anchors and you're looking for a flex play in a week, I've got to relent. They're going to get him the ball and get him opportunities in space. He's going to get those 6-7 touches every week, and right now he's breaking them. Again, start Smith, prepare for a dud eventually. You've got to be real about that, right?
But the thing is, you get down to 12:45 on Sunday, and a guy who's questionable all week long is suddenly out of the lineup. Are you going to throw in a Darren Reeves or a Fozzie Whitaker, or are you going to throw in Antoine Smith, who's going to get to a 40-yard touchdown?
Absolutely. There's a high ceiling there, and I totally agree.
Well,
If
those
you're
are
in
the
trouble,
options, then yeah, Antoine Smith.
right? But so he's not
probably a
replacing
little-
Frank
yeah.
Gore, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'd like to see him get a little bit more
100%
touches
agree
and
with you.
maybe take some away from Steven Jackson. But
Steven Jackson only had 6 carries this week. They're running 4 running backs in there, which is the problem with Antoine Smith right now. They're letting Devontae Freeman get some work. He's looking okay. Jaquiz is still in the mix. And Steven Jackson is starting the games and getting a handful of touches. And week in, week out,
Roddy
he's
White,
actually
where's
not
he?
been that bad.
what do you mean? Where's Roddy White?
He'll be fine.
The good thing
He'll be
for
fine.
He'll be fine.
the good thing
Really?
is for
Yeah.
Antoine Smith, they keep
He's
giving
a
him
little
those
older.
6 touches. So
Yeah, I don't know how.
and they're giving him opportunities.
They're finding him opportunity,
They
absolutely.
keep finding ways to do that. So
All right, let's tee up tonight's game.
Hang on, can I do 3 things really quick? I know we're getting tight. I've had some burning questions. One thing that I'm going to analyze on the site this week, we won't talk about it tonight, but stay tuned for it. Darrelle Revis is back as a shutdown corner, guys. He shut out Sammy Watkins after the whole. Sammy says, "I know they're going to cover me." Well, he did. They covered him with Revis all week, and
You know, he got in Sammy's face after Sammy got a nice catch.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Sammy had one nice catch on him. He went
Yeah,
3 targets, barely looked at him.
Yeah.
2 catches, 27 yards. On the season, he's only he's only had 27 targets faced in 5 games, and more often than not, he's facing the top receiver on a team. So, if you get a guy like a 10 target a week guy like Jeremy Macklin, he only had 3 this week. I was pissed. But a 10 target a week guy like Macklin, and we decide that Revis is going to be covering him, you've got to be prepared for a significant reduction in work that's coming his way. And I'll look at the numbers on that this week.
Should have known that Foles was going to go to Cooper more.
Should have known this week.
Man, they're bros.
He also targeted the rookie whose name I know, Jordan Matthews, 6 times this week. 6 and 3 for Macklin. I was super bummed, but also that game flow was a little crazy last night.
why not? If Sproles is out a game or 2, yeah, some of those targets are going to go to Cooper and Jordan Matthews.
I'm taking all 3 of those guys a little bit. The 2 is back end wide receiver 3. I'm still on Macklin. Seattle Seahawks defense special teams.
Okay.
Not great. I'm not avoiding them. Now, they blocked a punt. They scored okay yesterday. But I said this leading up to the game. I talked about it a little bit. Tony Romo, it's no longer a quarterback situation to be feared, and Tony Romo proved that yesterday. On the season, they're basically allowing guys to score what they average. And I'm not running away, is my point, from the Seattle Seahawks anymore
I
with
know.
a quarterback.
Still on the road in Seattle, it's not a comfortable matchup. This guy gives some love to those Dallas Cowboys.
Absolutely. Hey, credit the Cowboys. But
I'm pumped. They look amazing. That offense, so good. Like it starts with the O-line, the run, and that's why Tony Romo's gonna have success because the run game is so balanced.
The O-line is great.
The defenses have to
O-line is great.
cover the run, and that's
Offensive
gonna
balance.
free up the receivers, and that gives Tony Romo all the time in the world.
And that offensive balance is helping the defense right now. If
Yeah.
we want to talk about that too.
Still
Dallas looks
got,
real
like,
sharp.
They're still 30th in yards per play. Dallas, their defense.
That's fine. They're controlling the clock. I think they're doing that on purpose.
I know, but
right?
let's not get hyped up that their defense is good.
Right now, I'm saying that, but they're keeping the defense off the field
Right.
by
Right.
controlling the clock.
Absolutely.
And as long as they can run the ball, they'll be great. Now,
Russell Wilson's going to be somebody to watch. Catch up again, but he's
really
done
right
for his
this
entire career. He's just done enough to win with Marshawn Lynch and that defense. It's going to be interesting to see if he can win a game on his own.
absolutely. And again, they haven't looked great against the pass this year, but my point is more, they're still a good defense. I'm not saying Seattle has a bad defense. In fact, they're quite strong. But what I am saying is that I'm not afraid to start my quarterbacks or even my wide receivers against them anymore. I put an article up on the site this week. Opposing quarterbacks have posted their average. They haven't posted great games against them, but they've posted their average against Seattle this week. This year, Tony Romo does that yesterday. Very efficient game, 250 yards passing, multiple touchdowns too, and he got it done. He scored 16 fantasy points. I am not afraid of Seattle's defense, and you shouldn't be either. So says myself and the folks at NFL.com, according to Essen. So,
2-2 in their last 4 home games too. Had them ranked above a line today that yesterday, Sunday, they lost for the first time since week 16 of 2013. Not that long ago.
Well, that game they were,
They
the
didn't
division
matter
was
to
wrapped
them,
up. So, you got to look at those games. Doesn't really
It mattered yesterday.
mattered yesterday. They're out of the playoffs right now. It mattered yesterday.
Yeah. I'm saying, even you look at some of their home matchups, like last one was against
They're
a
still
Denver
going to be fine.
Broncos team.
They're going to be fine. I still like them to win that division.
If
again-
Austin Davis is going into Seattle, you're not really starting Davis anyway, but you're
Fine.
not starting Austin Davis in Seattle.
Fine, but I'm saying this is not about trying to tear down the Seattle Seahawks, guys. We loved them in the first week. I still think they've got a shot to go back to the Super Bowl. They're one of the more complete teams in the NFC in football. But I'm just saying, we've seen changes in personnel there. We've seen changes in illegal contact and the way that the corners can play receivers off the lines. And I'm just not afraid anymore to start my quarterbacks and my receivers against them. Maybe you downgrade them a tinge, but Tony Romo had a nice game, and he's the 5th quarterback who's had a start-worthy game against Seattle in 5 tries. Like, I'm not scared. That's all I'm saying. Good football team. I'm sorry, Richard Sherman's mom. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I feel like Seattle just lacks that threat on offense, the wide receiver. Percy Harvin's great, but he's not catching any balls.
They gave him six chances this week, 3 receptions and 3 carries. Just didn't do much with him. I'm not worried about Harvin, but yeah, they lack a consistent guy.
All right, let's talk tonight.
Yeah.
Seattle, San Fran. I don't know.
St. Louis, San Fran.
Oh, yeah, Seattle. We talk
Okay,
about them all the time. So, who do you guys like?
I like San Fran.
San Fran.
Yeah. I'm glad I did it.
I like it to be
I
close.
started
It's
Ben
gonna be
Tate
close
over
for sure.
Frank Gore. I'm glad he made that move. There's always talk about Frank Gore. They definitely want to limit his touches. It's kind of like, why? Because when they give him the ball, they win, and when they don't, they lose. But it sounds like they're going to try to mix in Carlos Hyde.
He's on pace for the lowest carries of his career, and that's something that we all projected, I think, coming into the season. Carlos Hyde is in the mix there. He's looked pretty good. So I'm interested to see how Gore goes tonight against what should be a top St. Louis Rams run defense, although they haven't been playing up to potential yet this season. I'm interested to see how many carries they give to Colin Kaepernick. He's been running the ball a whole heck of a lot the last few weeks.
Some interesting prop bets. Kaepernick, touchdowns 1.5.
Rushing?
No, just throwing.
Just total.
Uh,
It's going to be a low-scoring game.
17 completions, and for Gore, it's 80.5
It's
yards.
a tough offense to trust, too. They have so many guys that could be studs in different places, like C.B. Johnson and so great flashes, Brandon Lloyd. But the problem, you got Bolden, like
Davis back tonight.
Davis
So
there.
Davis back
So
tonight. I'm interested to see what happens with Steve Johnson. He's barely played. I know he scored touchdowns in consecutive weeks, but I think he's been under 20 snaps on the field, like combined in those 2 weeks. So with Davis back in the lineup and presumably good to go, I am interested to see what happens there. On the St. Louis side, we talked about Zach Stacy and how he might be all right earlier, just because Mike's trying to feel good about a poor trade that he went out and made. Zach Stacy got hurt last week. Benny Cunningham came in and ran well. And all season, Jeff Fisher has said this is a hot hand scenario. So I'm interested to see how they start the game out and then who gets momentum against San Fran.
Did you mention Stacey? Yeah, he didn't practice all week,
But he's good to go.
but he's good to go. Yeah,
I don't really like
They're
the-
going to limit him tonight.
What
Absolutely.
about Brian Quick, man? This guy is
Hey.
phenomenal.
That was the next guy on my list. I mean, they say he's developed. This is his 3rd year, which is the magic year for receivers. They say he's starting to get the game. He looks crisper in his roots, and he's never been a guy who's been low on talent, just on acclimation to the game, I guess. And now he looks there.
Top 20 wide receiver the rest of the way.
And low on help from his quarterback. And now he has Austin Davis. Tell us about Austin Davis.
Austin Davis, this guy went to Southern Miss. Who else went there? Brett Favre.
That's an Ed Gruden voice.
Hey, and you told me he's got like a bunch of Brett Favre records,
Oh, he
actually.
beat them all. He beat his, most passing yards in Southern Miss history. Austin Davis, this guy is going to sling it.
He's been throwing the ball around now in San
I like the Rams
Francisco.
to keep this game really close.
I do as well.
Quick's the guy I love against, a bottom half pass defense. But when you're playing some of the tougher ones, not in love.
Though he's getting a healthy target load
He's getting
either
a lot
way,
of targets.
actually. Austin Davis, definitely a guy I'm avoiding against the top defense, and that's kind of what we're looking at in San Francisco. They're certainly top half of the league. Not excited about him. It's going to be a low-scoring football game, I think, and I think you see San Francisco pull it out late.
All right, so this pretty much wraps it up. SNU article is going to come out this week.
I doubt it.
Not us. They take care of you
We are
down
not
here.
a Stramersby crowd, but thank you.
If you
Enjoy.
weren't able to come down today, make sure you come down next Monday. They usually have a jersey to give away, a bunch of prizes, questionnaire as well. So come by and check us out. Thanks for watching.
About the
Mike
Cowboys.
Omelon, S. McLaren, John Collins, Chris Meany.
See you next week.
Catch you next week.
Guys.